My neighbor complains about the noise, but he throws parties until 3 a.m. Well, folks, I need to vent about this situation that's driving me crazy, and I confess I'm a little torn between laughter and frustration. It all started a few months ago when I moved into a new apartment. Everything was perfect, a quiet neighborhood, until I met Mr. Alberto, my upstairs neighbor. At first, everything was peaceful and harmonious. We'd exchange a good morning in the elevator. He even offered me a piece of cake his wife had made. But the honeymoon didn't last long. I soon realized that Mr. Alberto was rather peculiar. He's the type of person who loves to complain. Anything becomes a reason for complaint, and the main target of his complaints, guess what? It was me. The first time was because of my dog, a puppy who loves to play with a ball. Mr. Alberto knocked on my door to complain about the noise, saying the dog was disturbing his peace, that he needed to rest, and so on. I tried to be. I explained, understandingly, that it was a puppy, that it was in training, and that I would do my best to control the situation. Then, there were the times when I watched TV a little louder, or when I cooked and the smell of food spread through the hallway. Everything became a reason for complaint. I even started to feel guilty for breathing. I became so paranoid, but the height of hypocrisy came with his parties. Yes, Mr. Alberto, the king of complaints, the champion of silence, is the same guy who loves to throw parties that go until 3 a.m. with loud music, people shouting, and a constant coming and going of people that looks like a nightclub. I've tried to talk to him amicably, but he always makes up an excuse, saying there are special events, that they are rare, that they won't happen again. But the truth is, the parties continue, and I, poor thing, am left here, listening to the noise, wondering if life is a play, and I'm the only one who didn't get the script. And the worst part is that he keeps complaining about me. The other day, he saw me in the elevator and blurted out, "Your dog is barking too much," as if nothing was happening, as if he weren't responsible for sleepless nights. I'm still trying to understand what his deal is. Doesn't he see the irony in the situation? Does he think he's right? Or does he simply not care? The truth is, this story isn't over yet, and I confess I'm curious to know how it will end. Continued on YouTube.
So folks, after that rant about Mr. Alberto, the situation only got worse, and I need to share the latest chapters of this saga with you, because with each passing day, life in my apartment feels like a script from a dramatic comedy. The kind you watch with popcorn in hand, laughing and wondering, how is this possible? The first big new thing was the installation of a karaoke machine. Yes, a karaoke machine, in Mr. Alberto's apartment. And it wasn't just any karaoke machine. It was one of those powerful ones, with a sound system that seemed to have come from a concert. And guess what? His special parties reached a whole new level of intensity. Now, in addition to the loud music, the lively conversations, and the constant coming and going of people, I had to put up with Mr. Alberto's shows and his guests. And the repertoire was varied, from classic Brazilian popular music to international hits, including those forgotten 80s hits that nobody remembers anymore. The thing is, Mr. Alberto isn't exactly Roberto Carlos, and neither are his friends. Their performances were, more often than not, out of tune, with forgotten lyrics and a lot of enthusiasm, and I, poor thing, was stuck there in my apartment, trying to drown out the sound with pillows, headphones, and even the noise of my own vacuum cleaner. That I tried talking to him again, of course, but the answer was always the same. "Oh, but today is special. It's just a little cake. It won't happen again." And with each special, each little cake, each "it won't happen again," my patience went down the drain. That I started to feel like a hostage to the situation. I couldn't watch TV in peace anymore, or sleep, or even have a quiet conversation on the phone, because at any moment, Mr. Alberto's karaoke could kick in, and my peace would be gone. The neighbors, of course, also started to complain, but nobody seemed willing to confront him. Mr. Alberto, perhaps out of fear, perhaps out of exhaustion, or perhaps because everyone was already used to his personality. There was the downstairs neighbor, Mrs. Maria, who complained about the vibrations in the ceiling, the couple in the apartment next door, who had a small baby and constantly had dark circles under their eyes from so much sleep, and even the building's doorman, who didn't know what to do anymore. But Mr. Alberto remained unperturbed, oblivious to our suffering. He seemed to live in a parallel world where the rules didn't apply to him, and where noise was synonymous with happiness. During one of his epic shows, I finally lost my patience. It was almost 2 a.m., and the music was deafening. I went to his door and knocked forcefully. When he opened it, with a smile on his face and a drink in his hand, I couldn't control myself. "Mr. Alberto, for God's sake, can you stop this nonsense? I can't sleep. The neighborhood. He's complaining and you keep doing it," I said, my voice choked with anger and exhaustion. That he looked at me, surprised, and replied, "But young man, what's the problem? We're having fun," and patted me on the back, as if nothing was happening. At that moment, I almost exploded, but I took a deep breath, tried to control myself, and said, "Mr. Alberto, I respect your desire to have fun, but I need my peace and quiet. I need to sleep, I need to work, I need to have a normal life." He looked at me again, thought for a moment, and replied, "Oh, but you're very annoying, young man," and slammed the door in my face. That was the last straw. At that moment, I decided I needed to take action. I couldn't live like that anymore. I needed to find a solution, even if it meant moving apartments. I started researching my rights, the condominium laws, how to deal with noisy neighbors, and I discovered that I wasn't alone, that many people go through similar situations. Also, I started talking to other residents of the building to see if we could unite and take some action. But the truth is that most people were discouraged, tired of fighting, and willing to accept the situation. But not me. I didn't want to accept it. I wanted a solution, I wanted peace, I wanted quiet, and I was willing to fight for it. From then on, I started documenting everything, recording the noises, noting the times of the parties, registering the complaints, and gathering evidence to perhaps take some legal action. The situation, as you can imagine, generated a lot of tension, a lot of arguments, and a lot of headaches. But I didn't give up. I remained firm in my purpose and decided that I wasn't going to be silent. All right, everyone, ready for the conclusion of this epic saga against Mr. Alberto and his infernal karaoke. Last time, I was at the peak of my frustration, determined not to give in to the noise and disrespect of my neighbor, and that's when things started to change. After gathering all the evidence, recording the shows, noting the times, and talking to other residents, I decided to take a more drastic approach. I contacted the building's superintendent, a nice old man who seemed afraid of Mr. Alberto. I explained the situation, showed him the recordings and notes, and asked him to take some action. The superintendent, somewhat hesitant, promised he would talk to Mr. Alberto, but I already knew it wouldn't do much good. To my surprise, a few days later, I received a notice from the condominium informing me that Mr. Alberto had been notified about the noise complaints and that, if the parties continued, he could be. I was fined, I was relieved, but at the same time skeptical. I knew Mr. Alberto wasn't going to change overnight, and that the war wasn't over yet. And sure enough, the next day, the karaoke was back in full swing, complete with a special show in honor of one of Mr. Alberto's friends' birthdays, and the shouting, loud music, and disrespect continued. This time, however, I was prepared. I called the police, reported the excessive noise, and waited. The police arrived, spoke with Mr. Alberto, and asked him to lower the volume. He, of course, pretended nothing was happening, promised he would lower the volume, but as soon as the police left, the karaoke started again in full force. The situation became unbearable. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't work, I couldn't find peace. and I began to feel increasingly exhausted and frustrated. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to fight alone anymore. I needed help from other people, and that's when the neighborhood finally came together. Mrs. Maria from the apartment below, who was always complaining about the vibrations in the ceiling, the couple from the apartment next door, who had a small baby, and even the building's doorman, who didn't know what to do anymore, all joined me. Together, we went to the building manager, demanded that he take more forceful action, and even threatened to take the case to court. Seeing the unity of the neighborhood, the building manager finally felt compelled to act. He called an extraordinary meeting of the condominium, where the main topic would be the noise from Mr. Alberto's apartment. At the meeting, all the residents present were able to express their complaints, show evidence, and demand a solution to the problem. Mr. Alberto, of course, tried to defend himself, saying that he was just having fun, that he wasn't doing anything wrong, and that we were all just being annoying. But this time, he didn't stand a chance. The majority of the residents were against him, and the pressure was so great that he had to give in. At the end of the meeting, it was decided that Mr. Alberto would have to stop the noisy parties, under penalty of fines and other sanctions, and to our surprise he accepted. From that day on, silence reigned again in the building, the karaoke was retired, the parties decreased, and peace finally returned. Of course, Mr. Alberto still held some events, from time to time, but nothing compared to what it was before, and over time he even became more friendly. We started greeting each other in the elevator, exchanging a few words, and even laughing at some situations. The relationship, which was once one of hatred and frustration, transformed into respect and, who knows, maybe even friendship. Today, I can say that the story of my noisy neighbor had a happy ending. I learned that together we can overcome any obstacle, that unity is strength, and that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is through dialogue, respect, and most importantly, I learned to value silence, peace, and quiet, things I used to take for granted, but which, after so much struggle, have become a true treasure. Thankfully, everything ended well, and now I can have peaceful nights of sleep, and Mr. Alberto found a way to have fun without bothering others. But one thing I will say, this story gave me many laughs, many frustrations, and many lessons, and in the end, it was worth it. And you, what did you think of this saga? Have you ever been through something similar? What was your experience like? Follow us to see more stories like these.